Hello students, hi, I am Mr. Varanasi Durga Prasad, PCT in Physical Sciences, working at AP Residential School Girls, Tumapenta, SPSR, Nellore District. Hi students, how are you? I think you are safe and safety at home, right? You are feeling very bored because of passive video lessons. Now I am going to bring a lively classroom atmosphere and lively class lesson, even though it is a virtual one. Very good. See, are you ready to learn? It's a physical science class. So I am going to teach a beautiful lesson to all the child scientists of APRI Society. Very good. Now I can recall some of the previous concepts by asking some questions to you. So first one is, for example, we have taken a charcoal. If this charcoal is burns, it leaves some ashes. So where the carbon goes out. The second question is, we have taken magnesium. This magnesium is burned in the air. Again, we can get some ashes. What is this ashes? Where the magnesium goes out. The third one is, for example, you take sulfur. Sulfur is burnt in the air. What happens to sulfur? So, among these examples, first one is, when the charcoal is burns, the carbon which is enriched with charcoal is reacted with oxygen molecules and you can get carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide goes into the atmosphere. The second one, the magnesium, when reacts with oxygen, we can get magnesium oxide, white ashes. So magnesium oxide will be in that magnesium oxide ashes. The third one is sulfur. When the sulfur is burned in the air, you can get sulfur dioxide. So here, these three atoms, namely the carbon, magnesium and sulfur, are reacting with oxygen molecules, thereby leaving carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide and magnesium oxide. So here you are getting three oxides basing on the concept of atoms and molecules reactivity. So the concept of the linkage of concept is atoms and molecules. So the title of the lesson is atoms and molecules. In this chapter, we can use certain terms, atoms, that is elements, and compounds, reactants and products. See, for example, in the above examples, first one is sulfur. Sulfur is reacting with oxygen. Here sulfur is atom, that is element, and we are getting sulfur dioxide, that is a compound. In the second example, magnesium. Magnesium is an element. Magnesium oxide is compound. And the third one, carbon. Carbon is an element. You are getting carbon dioxide, that is a product. So every reaction occupies by reactants and products. So reactants can take place in the reaction, thereby you are getting products, substances as products. So basing on these reactants and products, a French nobleman, namely Antoine Lavoisier, proposed a law in chemistry, that is law of conservation of mass. Mr. Antonio do many experiments on the combustion reactions. After study of these reactions, he found out the weights of the reactants and the products. So basing on this, he proposed the above law of conservation of mass. That's why he is called as father of modern chemistry. Now, let us carry an activity to find out the law of conservation of mass, is it correct or not. So that's why, because it was proposed by Antoine Lavoisier, so we have to prove it by laboratory method. So for doing this activity, some material is required. First one is physical material. See here, this is stand, spring balance, then conical flask, test tube, rubber cork and some thread. The chemicals which are required are sodium sulfate, Na2SO4, then barium chloride, BaCl2. These two are the chemicals that are required to prove this law. So these are the physical material. Now we have to prepare sodium sulfate solution as well as barium chloride solution. For this, you have to take 2 grams of sodium sulfate chemical and dissolve it in distilled water of 100 ml. Now you have to pour this in a separate conical flask, this type of conical flask. Again, you have to prepare barium chloride solution. Take barium chloride solution of 2 grams, barium solution 2 grams, and then you pour it in distilled water, mix it. After dissolving completely, you can pour it in a separate conical flask. Now you have prepared sodium sulfate solution and barium chloride solution. Now you take small quantity of barium chloride solution in a test tube, glass test tube. It can be tied with thread. Now you place this barium chloride solution, which is in test tube, in slanting position of the sodium sulfate conical flask. In this position, they cannot touch or they cannot react physically with each other. So then the thread is drawn out. You have to place a rubber cork tightly. Then it is hanged to the spring balance. Now first we have to weigh the total weight of the apparatus including chemicals by using spring balance. So that weight, that is the total weight of the apparatus before the reaction, is x1 grams. So that is the total weight of the apparatus before the reaction is x1 grams. Now you tilt this conical flask along with the test tube. What happens? This test tube becomes comes to the horizontal position. The barium chloride solution reacts with sodium sulfate, thereby proceeding reaction. So after observation, you can find out a white precipitate will be formed in the conical flask. So actually what happens here, if you find out the sodium sulfate solution is reacting with barium chloride solution, thereby getting barium sulfate as a white precipitate and sodium chloride dissolved in water. So here the precipitate is barium sulfate. So these two are sodium sulfate and barium chloride are reactants. So barium sulfate and sodium chloride are products. So here two reactants are there, two products are there. So before the conducting of this experiment, we have measured or we have weighed the total weight of the apparatus, that is x1 grams. Now again made weight of the total apparatus by using the spring balance. This time this weight is x2 grams. If you find these two weights, they will be similar or they will be equal. So x1 is equalizing with x2. That means the total weight of the products before the experiment is equal to the total weight of the apparatus after completion of experiment. Here there is no loss of mass, no getting of mass. So here again we can tell the law of conservation of mass. That means the mass, total mass in this experiment, that is the mass of the reactants, is equivalent with the total mass of the products. Hence the law of conservation, which was proposed by Anthony Lavoisier, has proved. So now we can simply say that there should not be any loss in the chemical reaction before the chemical reaction or after the chemical reaction. The total mass will be conserved. So during this experiment we proved the law of conservation of mass. So here the total mass of the products is equal to the total mass of the reactants. Simply you can say the matter is neither created nor destroyed during a chemical reaction. So that is all about law of conservation of mass. So this law of conservation of mass was proposed by Mr. Anthony Lavoisier, but it was proved or verified by another scientist, namely Landolt. For this, he developed a special type of apparatus that is called as Landolt's apparatus. By using that Landolt apparatus, he verified and proved the law of conservation of mass, which was proposed by Antony Lavoisier. Next, there is another law is there, that is law of constant proportions or law of definite proportions. This was proposed by another scientist in chemistry. He was J.L. Proust. By the study of these experiments and the results obtained in those experiments, Joseph L. Proust to some conclusion. Now we are going to study those experimental values here. First one, Joseph L. Proust taken copper carbonate from two different sources. First one is from nature, second one is lab. That means first one is natural sample, second one is synthetic sample which was developed in the lab. This copper carbonate compound contains the elements copper, carbon and oxygen. So there are three elements are existing in this compound. So Mr. Proust decomposed these compounds, natural compound, natural sample and synthetic sample, dissociated by some chemical methods. After that, he tabulated the weight percentages of the copper, carbon, oxygen in both these samples. Please observe here, first the weight percentage of copper in natural sample is 51.35. The same percentage of copper in synthetic sample is 51.35. Here the combining percentage of weight of copper in both these samples are equal. Similarly, if we find the percentage weightage of the carbon in natural sample is 38.91, at the same time in synthetic sample it is 38.91. Here also both are consisting with each other. Coming to the last one, this is the third one, oxygen. So the weight of the percentage of oxygen in the natural sample is 9.74 and also in synthetic sample is 9.74. So if you observe this table, we can come to the conclude that the weights of the percentage of weights of the three elements combining to form copper carbonate in natural sample as well as synthetic sample are same. So Joseph L. Proust come to the conclusion that if any sample, if any compound can be extracted from anywhere, the combining ratio of the elements which are using for preparation will be the same. They cannot differ from compound to compound or they cannot differ from sample to sample. Again, he has taken another example. For example, the water. Water, he has taken two samples of water. One from natural, that is from underground water. Second one is prepared in the laboratory component. So in that component, he has dissociated hydrogen as well as oxygen, because hydrogen and oxygen can combine, thereby forming water. So he dissociated the constants hydrogen, oxygen from both the samples. At that junction, again he calculated the percentage of weights of the hydrogen and oxygen here. He found that in the natural sample and also in synthetic sample, the hydrogen and oxygen reacting percentage of weight is equal. That is, hydrogen to oxygen is the same thing in natural sample as well as in synthetic sample. So, coming to these two reports of the experiments conducted by Mr. Proust, he concluded that in any given chemical substances, the elements which are going to react to form a compound will be in the same ratio. This is the postulate or the law proposed by Mr. Joseph L. Proust. So that is called as law of definite proportions or law of constant proportions. So after proposing these two laws, one is law of conservation of mass and second one is the law of definite proportions, the community of chemistry arose some questions. First one is, why are these laws valid? And the second one is, why not the elements cannot combine in arbitrary ratios? Number of scientists tried to explain for these questions, but out of them only one person succeeded. He is Mr. John Dalton, an English school teacher. He proposed the nature of matter by two laws. First one is, if the law of conservation of matter to be followed, all elements must possess small particles of small mass. They are called as atoms. Second one is, if the law of constant proportion is to be followed, the same atoms of the elements must be participated in the reaction. That is the answer given by Mr. Dalton. Basing on this, John Dalton proposed Dalton's atomic theory. Yes, the postulates of Dalton's atomic theory are here likewise. First one is, the matter consists of indivisible particles called atoms. So these are very small tiny particles. That is the first postulate. Coming to the second postulate, matter is neither created nor destroyed in a chemical reaction. That means chemical reaction is the reorganization of atoms. The third postulate is, all the atoms of given element have identical mass and identical properties. Similarly, atoms of different element have different masses and different properties. They cannot consist with each other. That is the third postulate. Next one, fourth one is formation of compounds. Different atoms combine with different whole number ratios or simple ratios. They can form different compounds. That is the formation of compounds. That is the fourth postulate. Last one, that is the fifth postulate, is formation of different compounds. When atoms of different elements combine within simple ratios or whole number ratios, they can form different types of compounds. So these five are the Dalton's postulates of Dalton's atomic theory. Okay. Yes. The great thing in Indian science is, about 2600 years ago, an Indian sage, Rishi Kanada, was there. he proposed a Siddhanta, Kana Siddhanta, and wrote a literature, Vaisheshika Sutra. In that Vaisheshika Sutra, he proposed the Anu Siddhanta or Kana Siddhanta. It consists of all the particles consists of small, all the matter consists of small particles called as Anu. Again, these Anu, the particles Anu, consists of minute particles called Paramanu. So this is the old concept. It was proposed by our Indian scientists. Those days, the Indian scientists are nothing but rishis. So Kanada sage proposed this Kana Siddhanta in his Vaisheshika Sutra. So our Indian science is a great one. So this is the first part of the lesson, atoms and molecules. Later this the worksheet and recapitulation can be followed. Thank you.